Hello, my name's David Seaman, and this is the Three Lions Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Three Lions Podcast. My name is Russ Osborne and this is an independent England football supporters podcast. Here we are. We are into the knockout rounds of the World Cup. We know we will be playing DR Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo. That's in the round of 32. It's in Atlanta on Wednesday, the 1st of July. Hope you enjoyed the recent episode that I put out. This was the one where I spoke with the guys from discoveratlanta.com. They kindly passed on some hints and tips for those going to the city and to the game. If you've not heard it yet, still time for it to be relevant. It's episode 424. Find it at your podcast platform of choice. Now, it seems a real quick turnaround of games for us. I'm not quite sure if they're all evenly matched, but it just seems really quick. Panama on Saturday, Congo on Wednesday, when it appears that Mexico played on Thursday, then play their knockout against Ecuador on Thursday. They've got a week between. USA, they played Turkey on the Friday, then they played their knockout against Bosnia on Thursday. And to be honest, I was quite surprised that there was no general day of rest between the end of the group and the knockouts beginning. I'm not sure if that happened back in Qatar. Perhaps I should have looked at that. But I'm guessing it's because it's expanded tournament and they need to cram all the games in to this time frame. But from my own perspective, the turnaround to find a contact from Congo leaves a short time frame. I've thrown a few emails, tweets and Insta messages around, but nothing. I've caught nothing. I did actually have a couple of messages from listeners of suggestions, which I did follow up. But again, no bites. So thank you for that. Really appreciated. But I apologise. I've failed you. We'll see what we can do as the tournament progresses, should England progress. Anyway, I'll come to the Leopards in a moment. But first, let's just take a look back on that Panama game. A 2-0 victory that saw us top the group thanks to goals from Jude Bellingham and Harry Kane. Like the Ghana game in Boston, this was played in ideal English conditions. Rain in the air. Of course, there was need for the hydration break in both halves. It was also played at the MetLife Stadium, New Jersey, where the final on the 19th of July will be played. Now, whilst the players, it appears, didn't seem to complain too much, it really didn't look an ideal playing surface, which, come the final, if it is still in that state, it'd be a bit of a shame, really. Anyway, we shall see. England were playing a tournament game in our away red for the first time since 2018, when we faced Belgium in the third-placed match. It was also a game that saw Jordan Henderson become the first England player to appear in 7 major tournaments for England. That's 4 World Cups and 3 Euros for him. And then, with Harry Kane scoring the second goal for England, by doing that, he overtook Gary Lineker's record of 10 World Cup goals. Speaking of Garys, let's bring in Gary from Channel England Football to talk a little more about it. So speaking the day after the game against Panama, England's 2-0 win against Panama, I'm delighted to welcome to the show, friend of the show from Channel England Football, Gary Lambert. Gary, hello, mate.
Hiya, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. It's a bit of a late one last night. It's it's going to be worse.
Yeah, like I said, potentially a lot worse to come.
Yeah. At the beginning of the tournament, the main objective, obviously what we've heard, is to get the second star on the shirt, but you take it in chunks. The main thing is finish top of the group. Job done. Yeah. Is it as clear cut as that?
I'm really torn because I've just done my live stream actually, and I was talking about this and saying, statistically, this was the hardest group at this World Cup if you go on FIFA rankings and stuff like that. And obviously, we've seen teams like Spain draw against Cape Verde and, numerous other games where you think, actually, the results haven't gone the way you expected.
Yeah.
So when you look at what England's achieved, top the group in, like I said, the statistically the most difficult group in this World Cup, then you think, really well done. It doesn't quite feel like that, though, does it? And it's because I think it's the way the games have gone. So we started with that game against Croatia, fantastic result, brilliant performance in the second half in particular. Ghana then was a real disappointment, and then the Panama game seems to have been somewhere in the middle of those two, really. But I was saying, if we had started this campaign with that performance and that draw against Ghana, then gone on to beat Panama in the performance we did last night, and then finished with the Croatia game, we'd all be a lot more optimistic, wouldn't we, about the next round? So it's. But obviously, you're only as good as your last opponent. So I'm really torn. I mean, at the end of the day, it is a good result. And we've gone through in a group where 3 teams have qualified, so they're good enough to get through as well. And it's just, it's job done. But there's certainly, I think, areas there where I think all of us are a little bit, something just doesn't feel quite right about this England team at the minute.
Yeah, I think that's a fair observation. Tuchel, I think he made 5 changes, didn't he, to the Ghana starting lineup. It was a very attack-minded lineup. Obviously, we had Saka was starting a game, got Bellingham. Who else was in there? Anderson was obviously dropping back in place of Rice. Rashford started. So it's very attack-minded. But that first half, it just wasn't. We couldn't. Well, much like the Ghana game, couldn't break them down.
No, and I think the worrying thing about the Panama game more so is that Panama didn't sit deep. They really didn't. I mean, they were doing a high press throughout the game, and you just felt like, okay, then there's going to be some gaps in behind, and it just didn't. Yeah, it just still didn't quite materialise. And I think the most worrying thing I've seen is in that first half. I think it was within the first 10 minutes. Marcus Rashford made a great run. And it cut to Thomas Tuchel on the side, and he was waving his arms around, clapping. I think it's really obvious to see what Tuchel wants this team to do, particularly those wide players. What's most concerning, though, is that they don't seem to be doing it. They just don't. He doesn't seem to be able to get them to release those shackles a little bit. There's no. I go back to you're watching those games and you feel like, are they really giving it their all? Apart from maybe Rashford and Madueke, are they really, there's no 1-2s. They're not trying to take a player on. Saka came in last night and it kept cutting to the commentators and they were saying, look, he's got 4 men on him. And it's like, well, he has because he keeps cutting back inside. If I play a ball out wide, there's only 1 defender on you initially in that first transition because they're not playing with 4 left backs or 4 right backs, are they? So
right, yeah.
He picks the ball up and there's an opportunity to go on the outside, but it's always like that cutting back inside. The same old stuff we've seen with England for, let's be frank, for a long time. And I think Tuchel is sort of, you can see that he's wanting that. And I go back to like the Albania game and all these games that we played in qualification and stuff. And it's the same message coming out from Tuchel, but he just doesn't seem to be getting the reaction out of these players that he wants, or they don't seem to be performing the way he wants. And you go back to those changes, you could say that England were already through. He wanted to try some different players. He thought whoever he put out could win. But at the same time, it almost sort of shows us on that. Does he know his best starting 11? Which is a bit of a worry, really.
It's a bit of a concern, yeah, it has to be said. Then we've got the problems, issues, however you may turn it, at the back. We've already seen Tino Livramento go home to be replaced by Trevor Chalobah. I mean, that's another story in itself. We've seen Reece James be to be injured in training, potentially out for 2 games with a hamstring injury. I mean, 2 games? I mean, hamstring injuries don't just disappear, do they? And then last night, Jarell Quansah was substituted. we've got issues up the back. And as I said during the looking back on the Ghana game, Ghana looked like they could capitalise against us. Our defence looks fragile, and Panama last night had opportunities to attack us at pace.
Yeah, I think the worrying thing is every time in the transition when we lose the ball, it's literally, if you look at Ghana and Panama, it's almost we lose the ball in midfield and it's one ball and teams are in, and that is a massive concern. The one thing I'm trying to avoid doing is now going back to, oh, look who is left at home, because it's not that it's a wrong thing to do, because you can understand people's frustrations when you've got Trent, Shaw, Hall all sat at home. But at the same time, it's not helpful now we're at the World Cup. So it's a bit like, right, how do we make the best of this situation? I mean, I think the biggest probably criticism you can have on Thomas Tuchel is him, for some reason, not seeming to realise, or whether he's just saying this in the press, but he seems to be the only one surprised that Reece James has picked up an injury, which is bizarre. And I think, it doesn't take a G. I mean, he used to manage him, for goodness sake, and I think when he managed him, he was never fit. So it's just a bit like, that's one where you feel like he probably should have seen coming. No one doubts that Reece James should have been there, should have been picked. He's arguably our best right back in terms of that balance between defence and attack. But you needed a much more solid fill-in for him, knowing that actually Reece James historically doesn't stay fit. And then you look at the centre-back pairing, and we've already had 3 different pairings. Is he going to try a fourth in the next one? I think the one shining light is, I think Gahey seemed to play quite well yesterday. So, but yeah, the defence is a concern, mate.
Yeah, and I'm wondering how we will fare in that respect against DR Congo DR. I mean, I've got to admit, I don't think I've seen a full game of theirs. I think it's just been highlights because they've been on it. No, I think I've seen one. But yeah, they've come through their group in third place behind Colombia and Portugal. They've won 1, drawn 1, lost 1. It could be just as tough as it was last night.
I think it's a rinse and repeat of Ghana and Panama, to be honest with you. I expect England to have a lot of the ball. I expect Congo to set up in a way that they're going to be difficult to break down. And I mean, let's be real. All these teams that are sort of in this sort of brackets of your Congos and your Ghanas, they've got a fantastic blueprint now as how to beat England. And I say beat because you're absolutely right. A lot of people are saying there was plenty of opportunities, or a couple of opportunities, to Ghana to potentially nick it. And Panama, maybe less so, but if certain things had gone their way last night, with the defence, and they did score a goal and it was just offside. There's clear ways to get at us, and it is a concern. But we wouldn't mind, would we, Russell? And it was a bit like the Croatia game. We don't mind conceding goals as long as then we're banging them in the other end.
Absolutely.
And you look at the Croatia game, and it was a bit like, yeah, defence weren't great, but look how fantastic we were going forward. And everyone just like, right, we're just going to score one more than you, as the famous song goes. But we're just not getting the offence right. And even it's a bit like something's got to give here. It's all right saying you're sacrificing defensive stability to make sure that the top of the pitch works well, but that's not working great either. And it's a bit like we're in a bit of a no man's land, really. I'd rather us have a solid defence or a solid attacking, but we don't seem to be doing either quite well, to be honest with you.
Well, those goals have come basically from Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham. Harry Kane, it appears, I mean, just looking back again at the Ghana game and the first half against Panama, those teams knew how to sort of nullify him. They were pushing him further back. He wasn't getting the ball as much to provide as we know Harry Kane can. And then, okay, he was given his chance early in the second half. Or sorry, that was Bellingham who scored early second half. But Kane did get his free header. Yeah, I mean, let's talk Bellingham as well. Bellingham is turning into the player, isn't he, for us? Yeah,
I mean, he was the best player last night, wasn't he? By quite some distance. And I think you look at people are talking about where does he play? Does he play further up towards Kane? Does he drop back? I think it's quite clear. You just give him free roam. If I'm Thomas Tuchel, I mean, if you look at his game last night, he's doing everything, and he enjoys doing everything. He's a great tackler. He gets back. He pushes forward. You feel like just give him that freedom to be Jude Bellingham now and sort of build that middle of the park around him a little bit. Harry Kane last night, it's one of those, isn't it, where, yeah, he was out of the game, but he did what you expect a striker to do, and that's score a goal. And he did do that. And I do sometimes think that when games are going the way they are, particularly when you look at the bench, when you look at Ollie Watkins and Ivan Toney, and I'm not talking about taking Kane off, but is there like a slight change in system we can do here to, maybe push a game a little bit more? Or, I don't know. It's hard to say because, end of the day, like you said, it's job done. We've topped the group. We're through. We haven't conceded. So you don't want to, be too extreme. But there's options there where you feel like a couple of times he could have mixed it up a little bit, Thomas Tuchel, to bring certain players into the game and stuff like that. But yeah, I think the weird thing about the Ghana and the Panama game is that usually when Kane's out of games, he tries to drop deep and pick the ball up, but he weren't even able to do that, was he, in either game? No. So it's a bit like, it's a little bit on Kane, it's a little bit on the system. It's a funny one, but Bellingham is by far our best player.
Yeah, there was talk as well, Morgan Rogers, could he play with Bellingham? He got his first opportunity really yesterday. Seemed to be all right, to be honest.
Yeah, it was all right. Yeah, it was all right. I suppose, though, he's certainly, if Rice is fit, he comes straight out, doesn't he? Yeah. I think all right is probably the way I would sum up his performance, and probably England's performance in general, to be honest with you. It was just that all right performance. I don't think he's done anything there to really push his way into the starting 11, but at the same time, he shows that he's a solid player to come on. It's interesting. Henderson came on last night. I did jokingly put when we went 2-0 up, right, I want to see Henderson come on now to defend this, and he did bring him on. But I've seen people calling for like Mainu to come on, some player who can, maybe hold the ball up a little bit better in it. But I don't know, maybe I think certain players are probably quite far down the pecking order now, aren't they, in terms of getting game time? And I'd certainly be happy with Rodgers coming in at any point in any game, because he did seem quite solid, didn't he?
Yeah. Well, it's now into the knockouts that it really does count. And you hope that Tuchel knows his starting 11 for that and going forward. Just taking a look at the World Cup in general, what's caught your eye? What have you enjoyed about it? Or what haven't you enjoyed, maybe?
I think it's easier to say what I haven't enjoyed, because I feel like I've not been able to watch as many games as I'd ever liked. Yeah. And ultimately, I'm not going to criticise the World Cup because the time difference is the time difference. But it's meant for me personally. I just feel like I haven't had quite that World Cup buzz as I usually would. And what I mean by that is, when you come home from work, there's a game on, all day Saturday, there's 2 or 3 games on, and it's not just been quite like that for European fans anyway. So it's been difficult to sometimes miss some of those games, thinking I'd love to stay up and watch that. I've managed a couple of first halves before knocking it on the head and then going to bed. But what I have enjoyed is I think it's been nice to see so many different styles of teams and plays, and I have sort of enjoyed the expanded group stages. I didn't think I would, but sort of two ways, isn't there? People are saying because there were some teams that had qualified after the second game quite comfortably, but you could argue you'd get that in a normal World Cup anyway. But it did mean these final games, some teams were still, playing for something where they wouldn't usually have been. So. I think overall it's been a solid tournament. I think everyone's now ready for the knockouts, though, aren't they? I feel like we're all a bit ready for those games that really start to matter. We're after a little bit more competitive natured games as well, where it's not, one side clearly stronger than the other and stuff like that. So, I'm really chomping at the bit for the knockouts, and there's some fantastic games lined up.
Yeah. I think this is where the interest really does start to go up, ranch it up a notch or two. Any team that you have seen that you thought, actually, I don't want England to turn up against them too soon?
France have looked good, haven't they? Yeah. I mean, when you consider the group they've come out of, you can't. The thing is about France is they're so frustrating because they just rely so heavily on Dembele and Mbappe. When you watch them playing, you think you're not seeing anything there in the 90 minutes that feels any stronger than anybody else, but they just need one chance, don't they? They just need one chance or even half a chance, and the quality they've got up the top is just such, they don't need to play that well to win games. And they've come for an incredibly strong group, and you look at them and you think they're going to take some serious stopping. I think I think that's probably. I think for me, really, France are the most outstanding. The USA have looked quite good. I've got to say, I don't think they're not going to win it, but they've played really exciting attacking football as well at the host nations. They've put on shows, they've put on performances. I expect them to cause maybe at least one upset in the knockouts, but I think they've been my surprise package. I'd have thought, to be honest with you, they'd have struggled with the pressure and stuff like that. But no, they've been really good hosts from that aspect. They've turned up.
Yeah. I'll tell you the one team that's caught my eye is the Dutch. I think where you've said about England, maybe just not getting the ball into the box as we would like to see, saying about Saka cutting back and maybe being nullified there. The Dutch, where I've seen down the wing, ball across. There's someone in there knocking it in straight from the middle.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Yeah, it's a World Cup full of goals at the moment. It's an exciting one, and I think it's sorry, Russell. I think it's obviously worth mentioning. Obviously, with Kane scoring last night, is now our record goal scorer at World Cups, isn't it? Yeah, it was like 11 World Cup goals, one ahead of Gary Lineker now, isn't he?
Yeah. So, great record.
Yeah, fantastic achievement. Well done to him, and you have to say he's bound to add. He's bound to add a couple more to that, surely.
You'd hope so, wouldn't you? You'd hope so. You'd hope he'd grab one or two against Congo, but who knows?
And to be honest, if you look at the age of Messi and Ronaldo, that they're still going in a World Cup, you think to yourself, well, actually, Harry Kane keeps himself fit and strong. Maybe he's got another one left in him.
Yeah, footballers, the careers are a lot longer now than what they used to be. I suppose they're not all, having a fag at half time and a pint of bitter, are they, like they used to? So, they certainly, it wouldn't surprise you if he goes on a little bit longer, a bit like Lewandowski in that essence, in terms of, as long as you can stick the ball in the net, I'm assuming he'll still get chances in England shirt. And I suppose the other thing is there's not a huge amount of talent behind him at the minute, is there, to potentially push him out. So he may be here in another 4 years' time. Who knows?
Well, we shall see. Maybe we'll be talking in 4 years' time about Harry Kane still banging the goals in for England. Go on, tell us quickly about the channel.
Yeah, so I run a YouTube channel about the England national team. So Channel England Football, CEF guys, just give me a search on there. I do live streams every Sunday on most Sundays, but I do preview videos of games, maybe even look at some other teams as well. But mainly try and focus on that international aspect in England in particular, because as you know, plenty of YouTubes out there following club football, and I thought there's a massive gap in the market here talking about England, and I wanted that. I was looking for videos on England, I just couldn't find them, so I thought, you know what, make it myself.
Why not? And it's great stuff. Busy time at the moment. I know that from experience.
Yeah, the kickoff times are shocking for it, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it's worth pointing out that you and I both work during the day, during the week, and we do this for the love of it, for the fun of it. It's not a job that we rely on as much as we'd love to, no. But it's something we enjoy doing, and it's something that you're great at doing it as well. So keep it up.
Yeah, same to you, mate, Russell. Thank you.
Thank you, and let's catch up again soon.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Thank you very much.
Thanks to Gary there. Always great to chat with him. Now, on to DR Congo. As I mentioned, no one replied to my requests. There's even a team in London called the official DR Congo Football Club of London. There's a Congolese restaurant in the Tottenham area. Tried both of those. Although I thought the Congolese embassy, I could try them, but I thought the likelihood of them replying to me on a weekend was going to be few and far between. As I say, I apologise, nothing from those guys. But with regards to the World Cup, how have they managed to get here? They managed to get through as one of the 8 best third-place teams. In fact, they were top of that pile. This after they finished third in Group K behind Portugal and Colombia. They drew 1-1 with Portugal in Houston. They lost 1-0 to Colombia, and then in their last game, they came from behind to beat Uzbekistan 3-1. Newcastle United's Wan Wissa scoring 3 of their 4 goals. Now, they were a team that drew attention recently in the African Cup of Nations, where they made it to the round of 16, where they lost to Algeria. But they were noticed more by one of their supporters in the crowd. This was a guy known as Lumumba Via, or the living statue. This guy stands motionless in the stands with his glasses. He's dressed smartly, shirt, tie, jacket, all nicely coloured in the Congo colours, and he has his hand raised. He does this in tribute to Patrice Lumumba, the first Prime Minister of the First Congolese Republic in 1960. And he was subsequently killed by a firing squad a year later. Now, this supporter, now you're going to have to forgive me for the pronunciation of his name. I believe it's Michel Kuka Umbaloda Inga. Now, sadly, he missed their first game in Houston due to the Ebola outbreak and the quarantine required. He did, however, make it to Mexico for their game against Colombia, but was then denied a visa for their next game in the USA against Uzbekistan. Such a shame. It's one of those characters that would have been great to see more of in the tournament. But if we're going on the FIFA rankings, Congo, they are 41st. Players that we may be familiar with, alongside Wissa, include Aaron Wan-Bissaka of West Ham, Axel Tuzenbe of Burnley, Noah Siddiqui of Sunderland, and Edo Kayembe of Watford. And they're coached by Frenchman Sebastien Desabre. Now, this is in fact their second appearance at a World Cup. Before, they appeared back in West Germany, 1974. Back then, they participated under the name of Zaire. Although this wasn't a particularly successful campaign, they lost all 3 of their group games against Scotland, Yugoslavia and Brazil. In fact, they lost to Yugoslavia 9-0. Now, there is a moment during this tournament that is regularly brought up, and I expect it will be seen in the next few days in the run-up to the game. But this tournament, in their game against Brazil, they were defending a free kick, dressed in their wonderful green shirts with a yellow leopard in a circle across it. The Brazilians, they were debating how to take the free kick, when all of a sudden, Mwepu Ilunga runs towards the ball and boots it away. Of course, there is confusion all around. Yes, by all means, have a giggle when you see it.
Well, what on earth did he do that for?
As the immediate thought back then was that Ilunga wasn't aware of the rules. However, this is far from the truth. He was an experienced player, and it later came out that what he done was a protest against his country's authorities, who had promised them substantial earnings for making it to the tournament. But those earnings were then taken from them. It's quite a sad story, really. I'd suggest reading up a little bit more on it. As I say, yes, it is quite funny on the face of it, but there is so much more to it. Sadly, Ilunga is no longer with us. So from a UK viewing perspective, the game is a 5 p.m. kickoff on Wednesday the 1st. It's available to watch on the BBC. Now, I know I've recorded a couple of episodes recently with my observations. I've made a few notes since then, but it's amazing how quickly these notes that I've made go out of date. But a few things. After all the expected big-name players had got on the score sheet in the tournament, your Messis, your Kanes, Salahs, Haaland and Mbappe's, Cristiano Ronaldo finally got in on the act, opening his account against Uzbekistan, which made him the first player to score at 6 different World Cups. His first a penalty in 2006 against Iran. Goals then during South Africa 2010, Brazil 2014, Russia 2018, Qatar 2022, and now 2026. Amazing feat. 41 years old. However, his nemesis, Lionel Messi, became the World Cup's record goal scorer when he scored against Austria. This after he had put a penalty wide of the post. But as of the moment, Messi has 19 World Cup goals, which puts him past Miroslav Klose's record of 16. How long will Messi's record last? As it seems, Mbappe of France isn't far behind him. 100 caps for France. Mbappe, I didn't realise quite how many goals he had scored in his World Cup career. France beat Iraq 3-0. He got 2, which took his tally to 16 in World Cup games. 4 in 2018. 8 in 2022, and now here he is in 2026. And speaking indirectly of Messi, thoughts go to the French manager, Didier Deschamps, whose mother recently passed away during the tournament. He had to fly home. This was the French demolished Norway. But regarding Messi, recently, an Argentine television presenter incorrectly announced the passing of Messi's father. This was following their victory over Algeria. As I say, it was incorrect. It caused huge outrage back in Argentina, and the presenter ultimately resigned. Let's talk Scotland. Of course, they are on their way home. They'll be home by now, by the time this goes out. Lost 3-0 to Brazil, and their tournament was pretty much nigh on over then. However, they had to wait until all the other group games had been finalised to see if they'd qualified for one of those 8 best third-place teams. Every day, the percentage calculator just went down and down and down. Now, regardless of this being Scotland or not, having the team and the fans having to wait until that moment is ridiculous, surely. The extra expense on the daily cost of living, accommodation, and then even if they had to have qualified, perhaps that percentage had gone in their favour, a flight onwards to the game, or that flight home at last minute. It cost a fortune. It's just another one of those moments that I think FIFA, you're not really giving a stuff about the fans. I think it's all thanks to this expanded 64-team tournament. I don't think teams need to be hanging on like that. I get why, but it just seems unfair, in my opinion. I'll leave you with one last thing. Credit to Jeremy Clarkson, who gave away a couple of tickets to some England fans for the recent Ghana game, as he himself didn't fancy sitting in the rain.
Right, I am in Boston for the match, obviously, and I'm trying my hand at being a football correspondent for the Sun newspaper, and I had 2 tickets from them, and then it's raining, so I thought I don't want to be outside, so I'll give them away and I'll go in a posh box, and I found these chaps. This is Derry, that's Gary, that's Derry, and they didn't have any tickets for the match, and now
What one a beat. Very appreciative. I'm trying all morning for them.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure. Enjoy the match, chaps.
Thank you. Yes.
Nice one, Jeremy. Right, let's leave it there. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Sorry it's a little late, this one. Thanks to Gary for joining me from Channel England Football. Go check him out over on YouTube. I say, sorry it's a little bit late. I had one of my niece's birthdays to go to. But I hope you enjoyed it. Actually, before I do leave you, I have another competition running over on social media. Thanks to Pitch Publishing, I have a copy of Paul Parker's autobiography to give away. So go check that out. Go get involved. I'll be back with you very soon. I hope you can join me for it. So until then, take care of yourselves. Cheers.
Este verano, The Home Depot tiene todo lo que necesitas para organizar las mejores reuniones como asadores por menos de $300. También puedes encontrar plantas y flores de temporada desde $5 y ponerle colorcito a tu patio sin salirte de tu presupuesto. Ya que el asador esté prendido y tu patio se vea al 100, tus amigos y familiares no tardarán en llegar para arrancar la fiesta. Empieza a celebrar con los precios bajos garantizados de The Home Depot. Precios pueden variar por tienda. Aplican exclusiones. Visita homedepot.com/price match para más detalles.